So, yeah, 2020 is a bit of a drag, isn't it? I know there's a ton of things that are going on in the world around us, but this channel is focused on movies, and even in the world of movies, this year has been really rough for all of us. And that goes for Marvel too. The juggernaut that stood tall for 11 years is finally getting some setbacks that are really serious for the studio. Of course, nothing that was in their control, because they've been just churning out quality content for years and years, but still, this was something that nobody saw coming. That being said, we are all still super excited for Phase 4 and Phase 5 whenever they come out, and so I thought, well, why not speculate a little bit? In today's video, I want to discuss 10 theories that I have for Marvel's Phase 4 and Phase 5 that are maybe a little out there. These theories are not necessarily based in any pieces of evidence that have been laid out for us in trailers or past MCU movies. Some of them are just honestly wishes that I have. Sure, most of them are loosely based in evidence, but a lot of it is just speculation and me just having fun. So when you're listening to these theories, don't take them too seriously. Take them with a huge grain of salt because this is just me having fun. And also, I want to give a couple other disclaimers before we get started. First of all, and this is something that not a lot of people know, but I do actually schedule videos ahead of time. This is in order for me to just stay sane, honestly. Because YouTube isn't a full-time thing for me, and so I can't devote every single hour of the day to making videos. As of the recording of this video, Black Widow is coming out in early November. And while I highly doubt that at this point, this video is designed to come out before Black Widow's release date, so these predictions should come ahead of the Phase 4 film. That being said, if new news does come out between the making of this video and its release, well, obviously I couldn't account for any of that. So yeah, just take that with a grain of salt. Like, if something is confirmed in the meantime, or if something is debunked, just know that this video was made beforehand. And before we get into the theories, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to support the channel, and comment down below with any of your theories about Marvel's Phase 4 or Phase 5. Remember that these theories are just wild, crazy speculation, so go nuts. And also, unlike a normal ranking video, these aren't in order of likelihood or anything, these are just 10 theories that I came up with. And one final note, I'm going to assume that these theories are going to happen before the end of Phase 5, just to let you guys know. Alright, theory number 1. Loki is gonna die. Again. It's become a kind of tradition, actually, if you think about it. Loki has actually faked his death or actually died in all of the previous 3 phases. You have his death in Thor 1, where he kind of jumps off the bridge, but then he, comes back in the post-credit scene. You have Thor the Dark World, obviously, where he dies to the Dark Elves and then comes back as Odin. And then you have the Infinity War, where he, quote-unquote, actually dies. We'll see about that one, though. So, let's keep the tradition alive. Loki's back in Phase 4 with his own TV series, and honestly, I don't see him continuing onwards into the MCU much farther than the first season of Loki. So after the first season of Loki is all wrapped up, where do we go with the character? Is he just going to be running around the MCU messing with timelines? I don't think so. We gotta contain this trickster somehow, right? So my first prediction, and maybe one that's a little less serious, is that we're going to keep this running joke alive through Phase 4. Loki's going to die at the end of Season 1 of Loki. Because honestly, I don't know what else Marvel has to do with this character after the end of Season 1 of Loki. They've used him for 11 years, and honestly, maybe it's time to move on. I mean, he is supposedly actually dead, after all. Theory number 2. Hulk is going to be the only OG Avenger to remain standing after Phase 5. Now, I say Phase 5 because I honestly don't know when these Disney Plus shows are going to come out. For example, Hawkeye was supposed to come out in Phase 4, but I could honestly see it coming out in Phase 5. So in all honesty, I might even just say Hulk is going to be the only OG Avenger to make it through Phase 4. Because here's the thing, Thor and Hawkeye, who are the only 2 other remaining Avengers, they're being replaced. Blatantly. Thor is being replaced with Jane Foster, and I could easily see the ending of that film ending with his death. Because the only reason that I see for Thor to stay alive after Endgame was, well, to hand the hammer over to Jane Foster. There really wasn't a seamless way to have Jane Foster appear in Endgame and also have Thor hand the mantle over to her. So, yeah, make a 4th Thor film and have him die, officially handing the mantle over to Jane Foster. And then you have Hawkeye. I mean, come on. He's training Kate Bishop. Kevin Feige even said so at Comic-Con. And you know in a good mentor-apprentice story that the mentor is always going to have to die, right? Think back to 1977 with the original Star Wars. The mentor figure doesn't usually make it through the film. Or in this case, the show. So I think it's actually very likely that Thor and Hawkeye are not going to make it through their next projects. Now, why do I say that Hulk is going to make it? Because he's going to appear in She-Hulk most likely, and maybe he could die in there. The only reason that I say this is because I think Marvel is still waiting on Universal to get the rights back. Because if they kill Bruce Banner off prematurely, and then they get the rights back, well guess what? You just wasted Mark Ruffalo. I really do think that Kevin Feige is holding out hope for another Hulk film. And I think that it's going to happen eventually. It's just a matter of whether or not Mark Ruffalo is going to be the Hulk. And I think he might be. So yeah, I think Bruce Banner is going to survive Phase 4 and Phase 5. We'll see though. Theory number 3, and this is an exciting one. Live action Spider-Verse, it's happening. I mean, this one's more of just the fanboy in me, right? Because there's no real evidence to suggest that this is coming. But Sony had to see the success of Into the Spider-Verse and go, oh, we do have 2 other Spider-Man actors other than Tom Holland. And guys, Phase 4 and Phase 5 looks to be opening up the multiverse in a big way. This is their chance to really, really capitalize on that. I would love to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield interact with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think that would be awesome. And to see them team up and fight the Sinister Six, I mean, that would just be one heck of a movie. So yeah, call me crazy because I'm not basing this on much evidence at all, but I think a live-action Spider-Verse is gonna come. And I think it's gonna come sooner than you might think. Theory number 4, and this is one that has been speculated before, but I'm just gonna put it out there as well. The Fantastic Four are gonna debut in Ant-Man 3. So we all know by now, Marvel has a pattern of introducing new characters in previous films to establish them. They did it with Black Panther, and they did it with Spider-Man with great success. And while Kevin Feige has said that we won't see a Fantastic Four movie or an X-Men movie for quite a while, well, that doesn't mean we won't see the characters. The Ant-Man is kind of in its own space in a strange way, to where it doesn't really affect the larger MCU. But this is Marvel's chance to really, really use the platform in a big way. I mean, I thought it was kind of odd, even though I love Ant-Man and Paul Rudd, that they greenlit a 3rd film, because the first two didn't do as well as the other films did in terms of box office. And I think there's a very good reason for it. I think we might see the Fantastic Four maybe in the Quantum Realm, or Doctor Doom in the Quantum Realm, or just something like that. And then from there, they're going to branch off into their own movie, and hopefully it's going to be good. Fingers crossed. Theory number 5. Going off of the Fantastic Four one, I think the first mutant will be introduced in Doctor Strange 2. Who would it be? Well, Marvel has been clear that they want to move away from the Fox X-Men characters, but I still have a suspicion that they're going to introduce Professor X first. There were some quote-unquote leaks that said Professor X would be appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and though I don't really believe those leaks on face value, I do think that that is a strong possibility. Because if you're going to open up the multiverse, well, there's your chance to introduce the mutants. I think Doctor Strange 2 has huge potential to just rip the MCU wide open and introduce all sorts of new characters, maybe even Deadpool, the mutants, Fantastic Four, whatever Marvel wants to do. And so, while the X-Men movies may not be coming for a while, I do think that Marvel has plans to introduce mutants first and see them into the MCU for a long time beforehand, so that when the X-Men movie does come, it's going to be hugely successful. Theory number 6. Spider-Man is going to leave the MCU through the multiverse. So yeah, we know Sony and Marvel have this tumultuous relationship, but I think Sony really does want Spider-Man back at a certain point. All good things have to come to an end, right? And if you're going to open up a live-action Spider-Verse with Sony's characters like Venom, Morbius, Carnage, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, well, you have to assume it's going to work the other way as well. That there's potential for them to take Spider-Man, Tom Holland, and bring him back into their own universe. I think it's more likely than not, to be honest. He's had an amazing run in the MCU, he's going to have his own trilogy, he's been in Avengers films. I think the clock may be winding down on this character, in the MCU at least. But I do think that we will be seeing Tom Holland in the Sony Spider-Verse for a long time to come. Theory number 7. Avengers 5, it's not coming for a long time. Phase 1 was 4 years, Phase 2 was 3 years, and Phase 3 was also 4 years. I think Marvel really just wants to reset with Phase 4 and Phase 5. I think it's possible that we may not even see an Avengers film until Phase 6. That being said, I don't think we can cross out the possibility of a team-up film. Because I think we will see a lot of team-up films in Phase 4 and Phase 5, just not an Avengers film. And by Avengers film, I do mean New Avengers, Dark Avengers, Young Avengers, whatever you want to call them. I think a live-action Spider-Verse will come before an Avengers film, because I think they just want to take their time to build up these Avengers. These characters are new to the MCU, like Monica Rambeau, Shang-Chi, the Mutants, the Fantastic Four, and I think Marvel just really wants to take their time on them. So yeah, if you're taking my word for it, don't expect an Avengers film for at least 5 years. However, theory number 8 may hint at a team-up film that may be epic in proportions, and that is that Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are going to come back in Phase 4 and Phase 5, but not the way you think. Now, when I say come back, I may not necessarily mean a huge role in these films or shows, but I do think that Marvel is setting up Secret Invasion. And even if they're not, they are setting up the multiverse, and there are tons and tons of alternate Tony and Caps out there. This is a way to bring back these two characters without cheapening their deaths necessarily. I don't think they're going to bring them back permanently, because I think that would cheapen their deaths. Yes, I know Captain America's not dead, but I mean, come on. He's essentially out of the MCU now. But I do think that there is potential to bring them back as Skrulls and have them fight the heroes as villains. That would effectively bring back these characters without actually bringing back these characters. Because while I don't think we will see an Avengers 5, I do think we may see a Secret Invasion sooner than you might think. And maybe it'll just be called Secret Invasion, and it'll be its own thing. Maybe it'll be Captain Marvel too. I mean, Captain America Civil War was basically Avengers, right? But it wasn't called Avengers, so Captain Marvel 2 could be Avengers without being called Avengers. And if they bake Secret Wars in there, then yeah, I think there's huge potential for Tony Stark and Captain America to come back, with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Theory number 9. The mysterious benefactor from Ant-Man and the Wasp is Norman Osborn. Now, I get it, Norman Osborn is a Spider-Man villain. But if you think about it, we're all kind of stuck in this mentality of thinking of Norman Osborn in a Spider-Verse, right? Because of the previous films. I mean, Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, he was only in Spider-Man films. We're not used to these Spider-Man villains crossing over to other MCU properties. In the comic books, this happened all the time. I mean, Norman Osborn was literally the Iron Patriot in the comic books. And so if he's going to be a villain in the MCU, I don't think it's exclusively going to be to Spider-Man. I think you might see the Green Goblin appear first in Ant-Man 3 as the benefactor. There are a lot of possibilities for this mysterious benefactor. It could be AIM, it could be MODOK, it could even be Doctor Doom for all we know. But I think the most likely candidate is going to be Norman Osborn. On top of that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's the one who bought Avengers Tower. I know a lot of people think that it's going to be the Baxter Building, but I think the Baxter Building has the potential to be its own unique building in the MCU. But I actually think it makes a lot of sense for Oscorp to have taken over the Avengers Tower to set up their new facilities. Why does Norman Osborn want this tech? Who knows? Could be the beginning of experimentation for him on his path to becoming Green Goblin. And finally, theory number 10. The Scarlet Witch is going to be the overarching villain of Phase 4 and Phase 5. Now I know, there isn't going to be an Avengers film, and you said that there's going to be Secret Wars, so where does Scarlet Witch come from? First of all, even though I don't believe there is going to be an Avengers film, I do believe that there does need to be an overarching plotline with an overarching villain. Does Scarlet Witch fit in with Secret Invasion? She could. Maybe the Skrulls need a leader. I don't know. What we have heard is that Scarlet Witch is going to be in Doctor Strange 2, and I do think it's going to be as a villain. I think part of the reason why Scott Derrickson left the project was because he didn't want Scarlet Witch to be the villain. He wanted Nightmare. But Kevin Feige does want Scarlet Witch to be the villain. And for good reason, because he has plans for her throughout the entirety of Phase 4 and Phase 5. I think it's very possible, actually, for Scarlet Witch to be leading the Skrull army. For what reason? I'm not entirely sure. But when it's all said and done, I don't think Wanda Maximoff is going to escape Phase 5 as a good guy anymore. I mean, she's just gone through too much, and after seeing the WandaVision footage, oh man. It's going to be brutal for her. And on top of that, she's powerful enough to be a real, credible threat to the Avengers moving forward. So those were some wild predictions and theories that I had for Phase 4 and Phase 5. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what other theories that you might have. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to support the channel and give this video a like. If you want to check out some more content, check out the videos on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.